Hey, everybody. Thank you for joining us here on Above Board with Candor Path. You have me, Rich, and you have my good buddy, John Kennedy. How you doing, John Kennedy?
What's up, man? It's been a hot second since you've done an intro. I can tell because you almost started talking not when the beat dropped, and that's an important part of our introduction.
It is.
The
Let the
sound come
beat
in.
drop. I feel very much like Will.i.am whenever I say that. I hope that was Will.i.am that said that. I should quote Will.i.am often.
Well, it was Black Eyed Peas, right?
Right, which is Will.i.am, basically. Will.i.am is
Fergie.
Fergie. Well, yeah. Can you name anybody else from Black Eyed Peas?
No, no.
Neither
But
can I.
I felt cool that I knew that
I
much.
feel very cool. So should I be Rich I.R.'d? I don't know. Maybe we should change our names if he's Will.i.am. Because it's Will.
I've done some introductions recently where I call myself the John K because you always say you got the Rich B here, and as I'm saying it, I'm like, why am I saying this? Like,
And
this
did you
isn't my
notice?
name.
If you rewind and notice, you notice I said, "Hi, it's Rich." I didn't even say the Rich B anymore. I'm almost
You
like,
didn't.
yeah, I'm almost like turning away from that. I'm just being rich, just rich.
I
So
love it.
anyway, John, do you know a lot about investments?
Like a thing or two, I
A thing
guess.
a thing or
I've been around the block in this industry for a minute.
I think you have been. You started when you were 4, apparently. You have been doing this for a while for such a man of youth and all of that. Would you say that the greatest investment somebody could make is in platinum, in the stock market, or in themselves?
Yeah, I can't comment on choices A or B, but I will comment on choice C, which is fun sometimes when I'm in meetings, especially if it's someone like, my age or younger. And it's hard to think about investing for such a long life cycle, like decades of time, and what
Mhm.
this money can grow to when you're in the weeds of doing the work and just trying to build the momentum. And then I usually have some form of a conversation about investing in yourself. And depending on the personality, like I could see the eyes roll. Like they're like, oh man, I came
Sure.
here to talk to you about like stocks and bonds. And you're telling me that I'm my greatest asset. And I'm like, well, yeah, you are. Like you are over the course of your life, you will be the greatest asset. You will produce the most income, the most revenue, whatever, however you care to define it. So it is true. And that's what we're talking about today, I
You know
think.
what? I this is where my mind went. You're gonna this is gonna get edited out. I instantly thought this would be a great musical. Why has no one ever done a musical about like investment firms or money like I literally just could picture the scene where it's like, you have like the band is like dun 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 dun, and
You're
then like
such a theater kid
no,
that
listen,
that's like what you would
and then
say.
the financial advisor walks in the room and there's like a nervous couple and they're like, part of the song is they're like, we don't know what to do. We don't know what to do. We put all our money in, now we don't know what to do. And the guy's like, I've got you. And then he does this whole
Oh
song
my
and he's
God.
like, it starts with you, my friend. Yes, you have to know it starts with you. It has to always start with you. And then they do this whole like song. And then all of a sudden, like the rest of the firm comes in and they're like sharpening pencils. And there's like, I don't know, this would be this would be better than Hamilton. This would be better than
All I'm
Hamilton.
seeing is so I'm just seeing Matt lead that song, and just if you close your eyes for a second and just visualize Matt up there on stage doing this with a mic, just dancing to the number. It's amazing. I
I just,
mean,
I don't know, don't worry, we have your back, even if it's the NASDAQ. I mean, I could just see like the whole thing, bro. Like it could just happen. What do we do now? What do we do now? I'll tell you, it's the Dow. Like there's a whole bunch of stuff that
I'm
we
not
could
even
do.
going to stop you because
No,
you're on a
I'm going to
roll.
stop. I'm going to stop me. So the reason why that I'm saying this is, and ask you this question. I know that you invest in yourself. You work out quite a bit. You're a reader. I don't know where you are in meditation. We have to check in on that. I haven't talked to you about that in a while.
Working on it. Work in
You
progress.
definitely spend time with your family. And by the way, just for everybody, I had the funniest text conversation with John. I texted him last week and I said, "Where are you?" And he said, "I'm at Disney on Ice." And then I laughed and I literally said, "Alone?" Question mark.
I think didn't we talk about this already on the podcast?
I don't care. I
Well,
don't
what's funny
care.
is because that happened, and then we went to Disney then
And
later
then
in
I
the
think I
week,
asked you the
and
same
then you did it
question.
again.
I'm
Yeah, you
sorry if
did it
I'm being
again.
redundant. We
I think
probably
it's
did talk
amazing.
about this, but it's still funny to me because it was Yes, you're right. We did talk about the Disney on Ice. I
Just the
apologize to
visual of
everyone.
me alone,
Just like
just
hey
drinking
Jackie,
an
I
iced
need some
tea.
me time. I think I'm gonna go see, like Disney on Ice. I'm gonna go see Mater and wait, is Mater part of Disney? Wait,
I don't
did I
know, but that's like the opening act for the show. Like a spotlight's on me all alone, just eating popcorn. Just spotlight hits me. I'm
you
sad eating
you would
popcorn.
never
And
eat
then we
popcorn. Too
break
many
into our
carbs.
number. And then we break
Too
into our.
right.
Yeah,
There's too
you're
many
right.
carbs in popcorn. You'd be sitting there eating like probably like beef jerky or something.
Well, I'm the
Turkey
kind of
jerky.
person that so like once you pop, you don't stop. Like if I take like when the kids what? You didn't like that? Or you did?
Once you pop,
When
you
the
don't
kids
stop.
like if the kids have popcorn, if I take a handful, I eat the whole like I'm done. I
I,
can't and I
there's
have
almost
to just consciously tell them like don't that is not real food there.
yeah,
That's not food. Don't eat that because if I take a bite, Jackie made pumpkin bread last night. So good.
which I got none of.
And she's
Nobody
like,
knocked on my
you're not
door.
gonna
Nobody knocked on my
well,
door.
yeah, I did you a favor because I saved you from like 1,000 calories
I
in
actually hit my goal weight today. Just FYI, today I got on the
boom.
scale and the weight that I've been writing in my journal, it was exactly the weight on the scale that I've been visualizing. So thank you for not doing that to me because I would have been
So
pissed.
investing in yourself looks like journaling. I just heard you say that you journal.
I
We've
journal
talked
a
about that
lot.
on the show before.
Got to journal a lot.
What is that? Because this could be a very vast topic
Okay.
of what this
So
looks like investing in yourself.
let's rein this in because we've taken this everywhere from musicals to Disney on Ice to you eating too much popcorn, which by the way, there's this guy that I watch on YouTube that's a fitness expert that he says clean air popped popcorn is a great snack. It's high in fiber. It's super good for you. The stuff that you get at fairs and stuff that's got all the
That's what
chemicals
we
and
want to hear.
yeah.
Red wine's good for you. Red wine's bad for you.
Well,
Dark chocolate's good for you. Dark
dark
chocolate's bad
chocolate's
for
bad for
you.
you.
I
Yeah.
mean,
I
everything
mean,
in moderation, as Matt would say, which I quote him often in this regard, is moderation is the key. Little bit of dark chocolate, little bit of
right.
wine, not a whole bottle
Yeah,
or a
my
bottle,
problem is though, if
whatever.
I get a little bit of dark chocolate, then I get a jar of peanut butter and a spoon, and it's like I'm a depressed person in a corner
I've
eating
seen
as
you
much
with your
chocolate.
Hershey kisses.
Those are back in the day.
Once you pop, you don't stop.
Literally, the Orville Redenbacher company is going to is going to reach out to us and want to take that
Is that
trademark.
their quote?
I have no. It should be their quote. Once you
It
pop, you
should be.
don't stop. It
I'm gonna
should be.
Google it.
It should be. Oh, you're going to Google it. Be careful what you find when you Google that.
Safe search
So
on
let's talk about investing in yourself. When you think about
Pringles.
Pringle, oh,
Sorry.
Pringle says that once you pop. Oh,
Yep.
because you pop open the little canister. Interesting. Wait, by the way, have you worn your GTOH t-shirt that I gave you?
Yeah.
Do you
Worked
like
out
it?
in it.
Do you like it?
It's super soft. Felt great.
I
Thank you for that shirt.
told
We
you
talked
it's
about that a couple of podcasts ago too, by the way, right? With that, I forget which episode that was, but
the one before
the
last. I think we mentioned
yeah,
because I was wearing one of the shirts and you liked it, and then I had that shirt, but because I don't do squats, I felt bad, and I've never worn it. I washed it and just hung it up, so I gave it to you as a gift. So it's not a hand me down because it's never been worn. So technically, it was a new gift. I even put it in a gift bag for you. All right.
thanks.
Investing in yourself. The greatest investment that one can make is investing in yourself. And there's a lot of people that say that if you spend the time to work on yourself, everything that comes from that down the road benefits your business, benefits your work, benefits your career, benefits your education, benefits your family. In the ways that I can see in investing in yourself, there is your physical self, obviously, right? There's your mental self, which would be like maybe your mental health and your mental wellness, your psychology. There is your spiritual self, however one might define that. And then there is your intellectual self, your education and your learning.
Mm-hmm.
I think in those key categories, physical, mental, spiritual, and intellectual, those are all the different key bullet point categories where one invests in themselves. Do you see that I'm leaving anything out, or would you agree with those four?
I agree entirely. And again, I think back to the conversation I mentioned earlier. Sometimes it ends up being very specific about like money based conversations when I'm meeting with a client or a potential client, and we'll have the conversation of, well, hey, great, you're putting 10% away or 15% away in 401ks and IRAs and all that good stuff. However, you just shared with me that if you spend the next 12 months seeking this certification within the work that you do, your income will grow by 18%.
So they
And
impact
so
each other. They
Right.
impact each
And
other.
and then, you'll hear those situations of like, well, I have a family, I'm busy, I'm working, so that the stuff would be extracurricular outside of that. And I'm not saying that that's what someone has to do, but in those conversations, I'm very much reminded that has so much value if
Mhm.
that's something that you're interested in and you like the work that you do. And I think this, like for me, like on the work front, that's something that starting our own company, and I think maybe I just sort of think like that,
Mhm. Yeah.
from an investing in yourself standpoint. I care very much about that, and I care very much when it comes to investing in yourself, not about the dollars and cents, but then about your joy and your happiness. If
Well,
you're stuck
yeah.
in a career that you don't like, yeah,
Absolutely. Well, so if you the example you use is intellectually investing in yourself. So you're increasing
yeah,
your certifications and your training, which could maybe enable you to get a promotion at work, which would then impact your financial abilities and worth and value. At the same time, then there's the physical investment. If you said, "Hey, Rich, you have to work until you're 67 to be able to retire comfortably," but I'm unhealthy and I
mm-hmm.
end up, having a heart attack or God forbid, or a stroke, or have something else happen to me, or I'm smoking a lot, or whatever the case may be, and I'm forced to retire because of my health and take disability, or do something at a younger age, then that's going to also impact my finances. But that's also going to impact my quality of life, my relationship with my children, my marriage, my friendships, my ability to travel. If you think about mental health, that's something that we're starting to become more aware of as we learn about burnout and people being disengaged and people struggling. You're not effective in any area if you're struggling with your mental health.
Right.
You're just not. I think about I won't say names because I don't ever want to be disrespectful, but think about somebody who we hold up to a very high physical standard, a professional athlete. Think about over the last 20 years, and you're very into sports, so I know you could probably say five names at the top of your head. You could probably name five athletes who suffered from mental health conditions, issues, or struggles, and how that affected them across the board. It affected their placement on the team. They might have gotten cut. They might have gone to jail. They might have done some things that were illegal. They might have gotten into substances to help medicate themselves, or whatever the case may be. So, all of this stuff, right? Would you agree? I mean, that's something that we see in
Mm-hmm.
sports quite a bit. So,
Sure.
here's this person who's this athletic, physical prime, and probably a financial prime because they're probably making millions and millions of dollars as a professional athlete, but they've not taken care of or managed well their mental health. I can't remember his name. Who was the football player that was on the Patriots that ended up being convicted of murder? And it, uh,
Oh, sure. Aaron Hernandez.
Aaron, right? I mean, that was just one of the most, wow. I watched the documentary on that, and it was heartbreaking for everybody.
Mm-hmm.
But here's a guy that had, like, what I think he had, like, a $70 million contract or $50 million
Yeah, he
contract.
had
So
everything on paper, right?
everything, good looking guy, tons of money, but had this other, maybe sociopathic, whatever it was. My point is, let's talk about the ways that people can invest in themselves so that it impacts their world and their life in better ways. If you will, let's start with the physical. Uh,
Sure.
what's three ways that you feel, and I know some of them are obvious, but what's three
Yeah.
ways that you feel, or one or two ways that you feel physical investment that you've seen, certainly connected to
Mm-hmm.
personal finance, but just in general? How do you invest in yourself, or how have you seen people that you respect or look up to invest in themselves as far as the physical goes?
Well, we do talk a lot about fitness. Obviously, that's something I care about. I'm usually at my best. I feel like I'm thriving if I'm also finding time to exercise, which gets creative at times with two kids.
Right.
And it's I mean, dude, you've seen me like pushing Hudson on a stroller, wearing a weighted vest, like running up to the park, and then I'm playing with him at the park, and I'm like doing like air squats and push-ups in the park, and like silly. I mean, I know what I look like in the neighborhood. People are like, what is this guy doing? But I think that finding that time is important. I've learned something recently. This was a number of episodes ago. It's like two months ago. We had Kristen Holmes from Whoop on the
Right.
podcast,
Yeah.
and I shared with her, the 75 hard story, and how much I love fitness and exercise. And one of the cool things that the Whoop does is it tracks your recovery the next day. So it
Hmm.
it analyzes your sleep, your deep sleep versus light sleep, your resting heart rate, your HRV, all these different factors. And something she had shared with me was that I'm chronically activated, meaning whether or not I realize it, I'm always, my body's kind of in this like constant state of like low level stress or high levels. Like I'm never and it's, sometimes I'm putting myself in that situation through physical exertion, like cardio or working out or whatever. Sometimes it's work, whatever. But she kind of used the term chronically activated, which I really liked. And she said, "You're the type of person that has no problem working out 45 minutes every day. You'll find the time. You'll get up at 5 a.m. You'll
Mhm.
do it with your kids. You'll walk after they go to bed, whatever. But you probably have a hard time sitting still with your
Mhm.
thoughts for even 5 or 10 minutes." And I said, "Boy, did you hit the nail on the head." I mean, it's like you've known me my whole life, because that is a very accurate statement. I'm constantly on the go. And so something recent for me that I'm really trying to get more mindful of is, and it's fun. I gamify it with the Whoop. A lot of people have Apple Watches, whatever they have, like they can track their fitness in a lot of different ways now. But I strive to have a green recovery, which is like like a
Mhm.
good, it's a good recovery. I really strive for that, and I am trying to meditate more. You'd mentioned that at the beginning, but that's like a big thing for me, is like trying to find ways for someone who is constantly activated to find ways to like de-stress in a healthy way, not coping mechanisms like alcohol or whatever. But so that's a little bit of a twist on it. Of course, I care about my physical fitness. I do something active every day, even if it's for a few minutes. But finding time to be still and in my thoughts, that's been my new evolution in the last probably 90 days of something I've been focusing on
Well, I think to
because
tag
of Kristen Holmes, honestly.
well, I think to tag on to Kristen Holmes, I think sometimes someone like you can very easily there's a fine line between chronically activated and chronically agitated.
Oh,
I
yeah.
think that, you can find yourself in a situation where you're always on so much that you get to the point where you become irritable, where
Yeah.
I always tell my son Luke, he just turned 14, and as you know, he's lifting weights, he's working out with me, and you've been kind enough to allow him to use your home gym
Yeah.
when I've been on the road, which he so appreciates. Thank you. But I always remind him, your muscle grows when you're sleeping. You're not putting on muscle when you're lifting weights. That's not what's happening. I mean, if anybody thinks that, they're wrong. You're when you're lifting weights, you are breaking down the muscle fibers. You're doing the microtrauma. You're doing all the things that end up with hypertrophy or muscle growth later on. But your muscle growth actually happens when you're
Hmm.
resting. And it's also important to keep in mind that if you overtrain, then you get the opposite effect.
Yeah.
So you're probably somebody that, I think you're balanced, but I think you could almost be more at risk for overtraining, which then you dilute the benefits. E-
Sure.
To Matt's, everything in moderation. Having a drink or two for someone who does not have an addiction or is an alcoholic, that could be relaxing. There's really no health benefits at all for alcohol, but you might find yourself to be somewhat relaxed, or might help you, whatever social lubricant, whatever they call it. But have 6 or 7, you're in another situation.
Sure.
Taking the
100%.
vitamin D would be great. If I took 7 of them, I'm going to get very sick.
Yeah.
So I think, to your point, I will bounce off of that. I'm very into lifting weights. I'm very into fitness. I do all of that stuff, but I have been the most disciplined in a while recently with meditating. And
Hmm.
yesterday, I set a record. I did 37 minutes where I meditated.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
And well, it is. And people always like, well, I can't
Are
meditate,
you
or it's
using a guided app for that, or are you just
I've learned
okay?
to do all of the above.
Okay.
So I do things when I'm in an airplane. I put green noise in my earphones,
Hmm.
my AirPods, and I just concentrate on my breathing, and I blank my mind and I
I have a
think of nothing.
silly question, which I think I know the answer to. I've never heard that term before. What's green noise?
Right. So green noise is something that, and I may define it imperfectly. Green noise is based on nature.
Okay,
So
that's what I thought.
there's a belief that if you went out into the deepest forest in, I don't know, Colorado, like I dropped you from a helicopter into the middle of, there's nobody for 20 miles in each direction, and it's not in the flight path of an airplane, and there's nobody four wheeling, what would you hear? And you would hear, like, the wind through the trees, and there would be this, it would be we would probably be in shock because we're so used to having some ambient noise around us, whether it's kids yelling or a dog barking or a car going by or a plane flying overhead or the air conditioner running. so green noise kind of mimics that, and so I started using green noise just because it's, I guess, not much different than white noise, except I think it's nature based and it's supposed to have a different effect on your brain. I'm giving an imperfect definition, but if anybody wants to Google or look up green noise, it's probably somewhat along that. So I do that. I do a guided.
You do?
I do, which is very healthy for you. I have a very high fiber diet. I make sure that I do a guided meditation, and it's been extremely helpful for me. And then I also do meditations where I do a mantra or a sound, because they've done studies that have shown that when you do, like, some people like do that or whatever, but if you do even like that humming sound, or even if you do a repetitive prayer, that there's a calming effect on the brain. And so those are things that I invest in myself, because I'm on the road a lot. I had a very stressful travel week this week, which involved, I will just do the synopsis: two canceled flights, two unplanned 3-hour drives, a near mugging in a parking garage at 1 a.m, and a black eye when I smashed my face on the car door of a Dodge Challenger because I saw the guy walking down the ramp towards me who was going to attempt to mug me, and I turned really quick. So the story sounds cool, like I got a black eye from being mugged, but I actually gave myself a free black
I know.
eye.
I was gonna say, way to be super honest here, because you could have said
Nah,
anything. You went taekwondo on this guy.
I went taekwondo on the door of the 2022 Dodge Challenger. But
Jeez.
the
Well,
the
I'm glad
point
you're
is
okay.
that because of all of those things, I've had to do that. Now I'm putting that in the physical, but that may very much fall also. See, these things overlap, man. This may also fall, you doing this mindfulness and meditation. That also does a lot for our mental well-being. Would you not agree?
I do, and what I enjoy about this conversation thus far is you probably thought, as listening to this, that we were going to talk about investing in yourself in terms of your vocation, getting certificates, getting better, and that's certainly part of it. But and then when we started talking about like physical fitness and stuff, there's obviously like a vanity to that, but I think a lot of the reason, like I went on a walk yesterday. I mean, I'm not getting jacked by going on walks, but when I came back from the walk last night, there was just a little bit different type of mental clarity. And I don't know the
Mhm.
science behind it, but I know that there's a release of serotonin or whatever whatever that's actually happening. I know that there's value in that, and so I really really do strive to find time with that. And then the same thing with meditation or what have you. Something that I've been really enjoying a lot, because I'm watching my kids just grow before my eyes. And this is a weird thought on like investing in yourself, but I've been trying to carve out time individually with each of my kids once a week, whether it's like a date night with Ella or like, Hudson and I go do something.
Mhm.
But it feels so good for the soul. I don't know what you would call that, but I do feel like investing in my relationships maybe,
Connection.
but
It's
yeah,
connection. It's
feels
connection. And
great.
I think that's beautiful. I noticed, like, for me with Luke, we go to the gym together, and for his birthday, he got like some really cool headphones that he was so excited to wear in the gym. And the other day he had them like on the side of his head. And I said, bro, if you want to listen to your music, go ahead. And it was so sweet. He goes, to be honest, Dad, I'd much rather talk to you. And I was like, okay, I'm good. Let me just do one more set. I was trying not to
Dad,
cry.
what's in your eye?
Yeah, it's like I'm just so pumped right now that the pump is affecting my turnbucks. But it was a cool thing, and it was also so good for me. And I think maybe in that taking care of ourselves, when I say physical, mental, spiritual, and intellectual, I wonder if possibly social it has got to be a part of that interaction with friends, that interaction with the significant other, that interaction with children or nieces or
Yeah,
nephews. I think that human beings very much need to feel a sense of connection to something, and
yeah.
feel a connection to someone.
Hmm.
Loneliness is very prevalent in our society. I remember, this is just a sidebar, but if I may, I remember many years ago I was doesn't matter what city, but I was at a dock, like a dock area where there was a lot of really beautiful yachts. I was by myself. It was connected to a hotel where I was staying, where I was speaking, and just because the yachts were so stunning, and I mean, these were not big boats. These were ships. I mean, they were just gigantic. I've rarely seen things like this. And I went for a walk, and of course, the to get to the dock, to get to those yachts, they're gates that are locked. But I was on the outside, and there was a guy sitting on one of the gigantic yachts by himself, smoking a cigar. I mean, how classic, right? And I remember looking at him, thinking to myself, very, very shallowly, "Wow, what a lucky guy! He's on this $100 million yacht." And wow, he's smoking a cigar, and wow, had a helicopter on the yacht. So I'm like, bro, he's got a helicopter on his yacht. So this dude owns a helicopter and a yacht. And I'm just like kind of walking by, and I'm looking, I'm trying not to stare at him, and he waves at me, and I waved back, and I said, "Hey, looks like you're enjoying yourself." And he looked at me very seriously, and he said, "Everything's not always as it appears."
Oh,
And I
yeesh.
just looked at him, and I did like, this sounds so corny. I'm embarrassed to tell you what I did, but I was taken off guard. I just kind of put my hands like in a prayer like this. And I just went, "Hey, sorry." He goes, "All good, all good." He said, "God bless," literally. Like, we always joke around. He goes, "God bless." And he turned around and he walked back in. And all I could think to myself was, I'm looking at this guy in a $100 million yacht with a helicopter thinking he's got it made. And I'm like, "Hey, hey, looks great," or whatever. And he's like, "Things aren't always as they appear." And who knows, this he was by himself. I didn't
Mm,
see anyone, a partner with
sad.
him. I didn't see kids with him. I didn't see anybody with him. Now there could have been, the yacht was so big, but they certainly weren't spending time with him. Like, I would
Yeah.
hope if I was on a yacht, Dawn and my kids would be out there on the back with me hanging out, chilling. I don't know. But my point is that maybe in this situation, I'm making up a whole story around this. He could be the happiest person in the world and maybe just had a bad day, but he was by himself, and that's what I walked away from it with. Like, if I was on $100 million yacht with a helicopter, but I had no one that loved me, no one to spend time with, no one to enjoy it with, no one to turn to and go, "Isn't this awesome? Would it be worth it?"
Yeah.
So I think that connection that you're having with Hudson or with Ella, or that I'm having with Rhett, or when Ava and I go for a walk, or, I took her out to Starbucks the other day to get a pink drink. She likes the little pink drink. And it was such like, she was so excited. It's like these little subtle things, but they were investments in my day. They made me feel
Sure.
better about my day.
Yeah. Yeah. I had so this is funny and kind of random from what you're saying. I guess a little on topic, but I had a friend of mine, his name's Patrick Surmeyer. He was on the podcast about a
Oh
year,
yeah,
2
yeah.
years ago. And he said, "You are the most social, antisocial person I've ever met." and and I was reflective on that statement, and it was in regards to, like, just how at the end of a week or a day or whatever, I'm in meetings all day, meeting with clients, sometimes really heavy conversations. And so I find that my tank is kind of empty by the end of the day, which
Of
is why
course.
I like taking a walk or trying to meditate. I really don't do that enough, hardly at all at this point. I'm working on it. But I find that I still do have enough energy to, like, do something with the kids, even if it's not this amazing experience, which we've talked about that before too. It's like you could take them to, like, the coolest thing and the most expensive thing you could imagine. And they're like, no big deal. I can take them to Walgreens to get a toy. And they're like, this is the best day ever.
Absolutely. I don't want to interrupt your
No,
thought.
it's okay. Yeah.
I just wanted to say to you, as far as meditation goes, let me help you with this. You can do walking meditation because you walk quite a bit.
Yeah.
And I noticed that when you walk, you have your AirPods in. And I know you're either on a call
This is me
sometimes,
being antisocial.
right? Yeah, so antisocial. You're either on a call or you're listening to a podcast. And so something that I started doing when I'm doing my walks is sometimes I have my AirPods, but I've been taking them out and just walking. And when I walk, I concentrate on my breathing, and I just
I like
listen to
that.
myself breathing through my nose and out through I breathe through my nose because it's supposed to be healthier. And I just concentrate on my breathing, and I set a timer for like 4 or 5 minutes. And I say 5 minutes of this walk is going to be walking meditation. So you could build it into what you're already doing. You
Yeah.
can just make that, this is, I'm going to just concentrate on my breathing, and I'm just going to focus on something. I'm going to focus on the cloud. That's a form of meditation. And that's really all you
Yeah.
need to do. It's really
Well,
not that complicated.
I know it's not. I think I tend to overcomplicate it, but that is helpful to hear. And I think where I was going with the whole thing was that by the end of the day, especially on a day where I just have a series of meetings
Mm,
nonstop, the tank is empty.
it is.
And a mistake that I really don't make that much as I used to was I try to push past it. I'd be like, oh, it's fine. Like, I can keep going, I can keep going. And then I just get so burned out by the end of the week. There were times where even just the last few years, like Friday hits And Jackie's like, oh, let's go out with the kids. Like, let's go out to dinner. Let's go do something. And I'm in bed by 7:30 and I'm
Mm,
asleep by 8 because
wow.
I pushed past E day after day after day. And that's learning that I think comes with a little bit of age and wisdom too. Not that I'm like old by any means. I know, you know, people probably are like, okay, what is this person talking about? What does he know? But I learned in my 20s, like I was like hustle and grind and hard work and push through it. Wake up at 5, go to bed, never. Go to bed at 4:45, wake up at 5.
That's what caffeine's for.
Yeah. And this is such a stupid mentality because you end up getting less done and you
You're
hit burnout
overtraining.
so much
You're
faster. You're
overtraining. You're not
overtraining.
building
Yeah.
the muscle,
So
and
this whole
that's
conversation is me learning not to overtrain in every
well,
area of my life,
well,
basically.
it's okay. I mean, it's pulling back a little bit so that you can get the benefits of your hard work. You know, if
Yeah.
I, for example, in your world, if all I focused on was work, 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 make money, 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 overtime, overtime, overtime shifts, work, 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 money, 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 then I'm going to drive my health into the ground. I'm going to drive my mental health into the ground. I'm going to drive my social relationships in the ground. I'm not doing anything for my spiritual life. So great. I'll have a fat bank account and I'll be alone by myself, depressed, unhealthy, and then I die and then my money goes to somebody else. So there's got to be just that degree of balance. So physical, the easy touch points that we hit upon, having some kind of simple exercise program, doing some kind of thing for fitness. It could be as simple as yoga. It could be as simple as standing instead of sitting during a Zoom call. It could be going for a walk. It could be doing push-ups, crunches, gym membership, Peloton. It doesn't matter. Swimming, whatever it is. The other thing with physical is some exposure to sunlight whenever you can. Andrew Huberman talks about that a lot.
Yep.
And that's supposed to have a lot of benefits. Obviously, you want to be careful, skin cancer and all that kind of stuff, but still, that's an important thing. For mental health, I think it's meditation. I think that's tied to having relationships and paying attention to your social relationships and who you're talking to and who you're spending your time with and leaving some room for that. So that on that walk when you're on your AirPods, maybe that's when you call a friend that makes you laugh that you just want to shoot the breeze with and have some fun with and that kind of thing. But then also, knowing when you need some help. If you have to go talk to somebody or go to a therapist or spend some time working through some issues. Spiritual, we didn't really touch upon, but spiritual could be what it is for you, whether it's attending religious services, reading a religious book that you really read, or doing things every morning where you have I have like a devotion book that I do sometimes, and it just helps kind of reset me. And I
Yeah.
put meditation sometimes in that spiritual thing because sometimes I use that for that. And we briefly touched upon the intellectual. There's a lot of benefit into being a lifelong learner. I think John F. Kennedy said something along the lines of that, learning and leadership are completely connected to each other, and that to be a good leader in your world or in your place of work, you have to constantly learn. But I would branch that out into the more you learn, the better significant other you're going to be, the better parent you're going to be, the better friend you're going to be, the better worker you're going to be. All of these things at the end of the day, when we're investing in ourselves, they impact and benefit all of the things that we have in our life. Every single thing. They impact your work, your relationships, and who you are on this earth. And at the end of the day, one of the keys to all of this and investing in yourself is finding ways to serve. Wouldn't you agree in some way?
100%. Yep.
I mean, that's the thing that you're so different about, and that your organization, your team, Canderpass, so different about, is that you are all very focused on serving people. And we
Yeah.
talked about this in the last podcast about a service, industry where really everything is, if you're smart about it, whether you're selling, doohickeys or you're doing finance. But I think that all of this goes back to that old, and gosh, I've used and abused this example so many times, but it's kind of like flying on the airplane. And if somebody needs help, they always tell you to put the oxygen mask on yourself. And for a lot of people, that sounds so antithetical to what you want to do, because you want to go save everybody in the airplane, but you can't if you can't breathe. And I know I've used
Yep.
that quite a bit, but I think that's a great example. Firefighters do it, lifeguards do it. Everybody that's about to go save somebody does something to make sure that they're protected so that they can be more effective. And I think ultimately you would agree that when we talk about investments, if you're not investing in yourself, then everything else after that is going to fall apart.
Yeah, I do. And I'm feeling a part two coming on to this conversation because I know we're coming to a close, but I think there's so much more to be had here, and we didn't even get an opportunity really to touch on. Well, I guess we did a little bit, like kind of coping with stresses and anxieties and that type of thing. But
Why don't we do that
I
for
have
the
a
next
feeling
one?
there's a part two.
Let's
Yeah.
talk about the next, and maybe even let's do a podcast where we just zero in, when we do 10 or 15 minutes where we talk about just the physical, just the mental, just the spiritual, just the intellectual, just the social. I'd love to do that. You think that sounds
I'm
good?
in.
Sounds good to me.
Let's
Hey,
do it.
listen, man.
We'll book it.
So I appreciate you being chronically activated. Make sure that you are not chronically agitated, though. All right. So listen, this has been great. And I don't know about you, but I love being here and I love having you all listen to this. So I just want to thank everybody for being part of this podcast, for listening, for downloading, for sharing, and for letting us know your thoughts. If you have anything you'd love to hear us talk about, let us know. And I just want to say, on behalf of my friend, the John K, and me, the Rich B, thank you so much for joining us here on Above Board with Canderpath. Until the next time and until the next one, take care of yourself physically, mentally, intellectually, spiritually, physically, socially, and all of the above, because we care about you and we want you to be your very best. So until the next time, we will see you again soon. Take
See
care.
ya.